Welcome back to College Baseball Central. We are live here in Omaha Baseball Village. We're here at Baseballism doing an awesome on-site show today. We got Micah and Jake here in front of the Golden Spikes Award. Take a look at that behind them guys there. The Team USA Golden Spikes presented award by Chinook Seeds, best seeds in the market here. Baseballism, come on down, take your picture in front of it, come buy all the cool gear. They got tons of new Team USA stuff, new Golden Spike stuff. If you buy stuff, you get a new Golden Spikes pack of cards for the kids. Come on down, come get the stuff here. We're going to get right into the show here, though, fellas. Starting off there, we had those first games. We're going to talk about it. Virginia 2, UNC 3. Micah, get us started on that first one, that walk-off by Vance Honeycutt.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right? Vance Honeycutt is elite, and there's no real better way to put it. I got to see him in Super Regionals in Chapel Hill. Obviously, he walked it off in game one, and then first pitch game two does the exact same thing. So I think he's the first person in college baseball history to ever hit home runs in two different games on back-to-back like that, as a home team and away team in the same ballpark. So it was obviously, as a Virginia guy, a little frustrating to see Virginia not be able to hold the lead late there in the seventh. But when you play a team like North Carolina, that's just going to happen.
Jake, we were live up in the press box, and it was pretty electric, even for it being silent in a press box. Give us a little feel about that win there for North Carolina.
Well, I actually wasn't in the press box for that one. I was down in the camera well, ready to do post-game interviews. So not to one-up everybody, but I think I really did have one of the best views of it. It was really kind of tremendous to see everybody kind of go crazy after that home run. He threw him a middle fastball, and people like Vance Cunningham don't miss pitches like that. Really kind of set up UNC in that side of the bracket as they're still kind of playing on. Unfortunately, Virginia just didn't get enough from their key guys at the top of the order. It's been back-to-back years where their guys that they've counted on to get them here just seem to kind of disappear, whereas North Carolina had a bunch of guys step up.
Moving on to game two, we had Tennessee and Florida State. Florida State was dominating that game in the middle. Beginning, it started off Tennessee. Tennessee took that 5-1 lead. Florida State gets a 6-run inning. They take that lead. They can hold it all the way to the ninth. And then the comeback happens. It was crazy. Tennessee hits that walk-off. Could have been strike three on the check swing call. Probably was strike three, but you got to play the game. You got to get 27 outs. Unfortunately for Florida State, they did not. Big comeback from behind win there for Tennessee. Micah, you were sitting at home probably watching that one. How'd you feel with that one? That was a rough one.
Well, Mark, he did get 27 outs because that was strike three. That was the ball game. But that's obviously ACC, just means less talking right now. But, for Florida State, again, anyone that tries to say that was the difference, at the end of the day, it would have been the ball game. But Florida State had plenty of chances to close that out. Again, they could have gotten, was it Burke there? Was it Burke? Yeah, they could have gotten Burke right there, again. But Burke won the at-bat after all. Take advantage of your opportunities. Tennessee is the number one seed in the country for a reason. So, Florida State, again, I think what was the most frustrating part from an ACC standpoint, and if you're a Florida State fan, was you didn't see a good Jamie Arnold. We went into that game with the expectation that that was where the advantage lied for Florida State, was having Jamie Arnold on the bump. And he was, I guess, technically better than Tennessee's two guys that kind of got it rolling, but he wasn't the Jamie Arnold that we saw in the regular season.
No, he was not. And he was good, but he wasn't great that day against Tennessee. And that's what you had to look at. It was really strange there trying to figure that one out and trying to piece that one together. But big win, come back from behind for Tennessee. Jake, again, we were live on site. It was exciting. It was frustrating. There was fans on both sides of that one. The atmosphere in the stadium was terrific. Tell us a little bit about that walk-off.
Yeah, it was almost like vintage Florida State that we had been looking around to see for a little bit. Like you said, they came out, really were firing on all cylinders early. Tennessee kind of threw that big haymaker, and Florida State bounced back immediately with that 6-run inning. From a Tennessee standpoint, this was kind of the biggest question mark we had, as they kind of seemed to pitch backwards a little bit. Obviously their starter/opener only got 1 out recorded, and Tennessee was able to win the game. I felt like if they got through game one, they were going to be set up that side of the bracket as well. And then I can't believe we've gone this far without talking about Christian Moore's cycle. He got it in the 7th inning and then added on top of it. His home run was just a monumental shot. He opened the game up with a triple that really kind of put everybody on notice from a Florida State standpoint. And again, these were two heavyweights just kind of trading blows, and fingers crossed we can kind of get a rematch, because I know that's the one thing that everybody's kind of looking forward to, is seeing those kind of battle through the bracket again, because it's going to be exciting stuff. And, we'll get to that in the preview section, but, Florida State is definitely a lot better team than the SEC teams give them credit for. They're far and away, I think, up there with Tennessee.
Just a terrific performance there from Simo. He went out there, hit the cycle, 2 doubles, triple, a home run, and a single. Fantastic effort from the young man there. And he did it again last night. I mean, the guy is good, right? He's really good at baseball. We know this. We've seen it. Made some great plays also in the second game. We'll talk about that here in a minute. NC State 4, Kentucky 5. This one was just kind of that, slow momentum. The ballpark played big. It was a tough day out there in the ballpark. Micah, NC State just didn't have enough of their juice to get back and come from behind on that Kentucky team.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating from an NC State standpoint because I think you had everything you wanted in that situation. You had your guy coming in the ninth to hopefully shut it up. And, Kentucky hits that solo bomb in the ninth to obviously tie it, and then again walks it off in the 10th. I mean, I don't think many of us in the ACC world expected Kentucky to be able to hit home runs the way they did here in Omaha. It's a credit to what this Batcats team is, but from an NC State standpoint, I mean, it just you got your guys, you got the pitching performance from Sam Highfield that you wanted. You just were on the wrong side of the result.
Yeah, and the Cats came out. They were playing well. They played good baseball. Both teams played really good. I thought that was one of the best games we've seen here. And defensively, both teams played really, really good baseball. I was impressed. Jake, what were your thoughts there on that NC State? They had that lead. They had it. The Cats come back, tie it, and then they go and win it.
I know it seems like every time we talk with Madge, great things happen to great people, but Mitchell Daly really kind of exemplified that for me. He really, really struggled when he was at Texas 2 years ago. He really kind of got a brute of that fan base. He misses that hit and run there, and it seems like last year if he was at Texas, everybody would have been screaming, yelling at him, and he would kind of get down on himself. With 2 strikes, puts a good swing on the ball, hits a walk-off home run, and completely kind of flips the whole bracket on its head as NC State was kind of rolling there. Kentucky's, really talented team. They do a lot of things right. Everybody always likes to say they bunt, they steal the hit and run, but they have pop to put it out. And I think that their game really, really translates into a ballpark like this because they're used to kind of needing those longer home runs. And again, for NC State, unfortunately, they were unable to respond, but it felt like if you would have told me 8 innings that, hey, I felt like really good about this NC State team going far, everything kind of changed in the ninth, and they're kind of going home a little bit early.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a tough loss, tough way to lose that first game, getting out there. We know that there's not a ton of teams that start 0-1 and win that. There's only been a few teams that have done it, but this is one of those tough ones where it's get out there, you play really well, and you don't win the ball game, and then you have to go into an elimination game that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Moving on to that evening game, we had a horrible storm pour through, tons of lightning strikes, 919 lightning strikes. There was hail, there was wind, there was rain. They delayed that game until the start time here locally until almost 10:30 at night. I know a lot of people were trying to watch that game, and it was late. But then we had Texas A&M win that game 3-2 over Florida, and what was really a good baseball game after waiting all that long. It just felt really weird. There's some back and forth there. The robbed home run there by Jace Lavalette. Jake, I'm going to let you talk first on this one because I know that you were a little bit more passionate about this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, A&M's kind of been my team that I've been following all year. They went with Justin Lampkin, who I guess a few of the outsiders were a little bit surprised, but I think if you know Sloss, you know this was always going to be the route that he goes. He went 3 strong, no more, no less. He got 9 outs, did exactly what they needed to. And it was just a fundamentally good, clean Texas A&M vintage baseball game. They got out hit. They kind of threw some of their hits early. Florida there late really kind of came on. But again, they got what they needed out of Justin Lampkin to kind of set them up going forward. Jackson Appel added a few great hits. And, I mean, Alec Camarillo up the middle. I know he had an error in game 2, but just some of the plays that he makes, you really almost kind of need to just appreciate that not every shortstop in the country can kind of make those plays. And again, Texas A&M's kind of playing on there. Florida, I'm glad that Texas A&M has a guy who's 6'6" playing right field and not a guy who's 6 foot because Jace Lavalette made a home run rob look very easy, and he got it out of here by about 4 or 5 feet. That really, something like that really shouldn't happen. And it's just crazy that we get to watch college baseball at the pinnacle.
It's one of those things that happens. That's when great players make great plays at the right time, and that was a huge play there for Lavalette. Mike, I know you were watching this one here. What did you think when you were watching the game? Did it look like at home that ball was gone? Because if to us, we were like, oh, that's way gone, and then Lavalette jumps up and just steals it out of the air.
So, Mark, I'm just going to simply just not lie. I didn't watch any of this game. This is when I was driving the 17 hours from Virginia to Omaha overnight. So I had no service. I was in the middle of Missouri. So all I know is I saw the game started at like 10:30 Eastern time or whatever it was. And then I looked at my phone at 3 a.m. when I was trying to stay awake and on my third energy drink, realizing, oh, wow, good for Texas A&M. They won that game. So that's honestly, I just don't want to talk about something I didn't really see. So I just wanted to make sure that, I told the story of why I didn't watch it.
I just wanted to give you a chance to be able to talk about your drive in. So I wanted to make sure that you had that spotlight there because a lot of us made a trip in here. A lot of us are not from the area. The one of us that is from the area, Noah, is not here today. He's not feeling great. Hopefully he's back here for the championship series, but the rest of us are all here today. Let's talk about this next game here. Florida, NC State in that elimination, or Sunday game, Virginia versus Florida State in that elimination game. Virginia bats just left too many people on base, leaving 10 on base there in that one. And Florida State, with less hits, took advantage of it. Jamie Farrar was terrific. Micah, speak a little bit about that one. That was when you got here for that game, correct?
Yeah, I think Jarrett said it best in the post-game press conference. This was the most complete game Florida State's played in a while, if not all the best all year. They got the pitching that they needed from Carson Dorsey. He was phenomenal going 7. Oxford was great as well, doing his two innings of work. So, Florida State really got what they needed from their pitching staff, and obviously, like you said, Ferrer he leads the Omaha with the most home runs by a single player. He has more than some of these teams here in Omaha combined. I mean, it was really a impressive performance from him. And Florida State did a good job of, again, working at bats, meaning that I think it was the 3rd or 4th inning when Jay Woolfolk walked the bases, or the bases were loaded, and they walk in that run. That was a great at bat from James Tibbs. He made Jay work for that. I mean, that was a borderline strike. I honestly, as a Virginia guy, I thought it was ball 4.
He was kind of getting squeezed.
He was getting squeezed. But I mean, again, that's credit to James Tibbs working that at bat, making Jay throw those pitches, and Jay was just missing the zone according to the umpire. And that's baseball, right? It's the beauty and the ugliness of it sometimes. But I think for Virginia, it's just got to be frustrating. That's second year in a row you're 0-2, and you go home, and that's 6 straight losses here in Omaha after that game 1 win against Tennessee in 2021. But again, for Virginia to get here 2 years in a row, that does have to mean something, right?
Yeah, and O'Connor spoke about that after in the press conference. We got to ask him some questions, and he was emotional. He was like, "I'm excited for this team. I was sad to see this go again 0-2, and 0-2 doesn't define your season," is what he said. This was a great season. We just happened to play some really good teams and get on the wrong side of the ball games there in both of them. Jake, when we were watching that game, the Farrar home run, I know I was down with the crowd. The second one there. The first one was a hanging slider. The second one, he just hammered that ball. It was a huge 3-run home run. It kind of felt like that was enough of the momentum to carry for the rest of the ball game.
Yeah, I mean, from there, it really kind of felt like Florida State's game to lose. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought the inverse was going to happen. It seemed like Florida State was kind of the one dragging around, looking a little bit down, where it was Virginia that was really, really upbeat. And it was just a complete inverse 180 from there. I talked to Ellis Lotus after the game on the field. The word that he kept coming back to was respond. How is this team going to respond? We need to respond. We need to respond. We need to respond. And they really did. I mean, Jaime Farrar is really kind of carrying this Florida State team. They're going to need some big guys to step up here, but with that offense, the way that it's rolling, I think that they're kind of almost feel like a favorite coming through that side of the bracket. Really kind of excited to see. And then Alex Lotus did have that home run. It's always kind of good to see a shortstop that you don't think of that has that pop carry one out of here, especially with the wind blowing the way that it was. And, Link Jarrett said it best. It's that the best game, it says a lot about the resiliency that the best game this team plays is when they go out and lose a walk-off in Omaha. They could have very easily folded the tent. There's 2 teams that kind of did, and Florida State's playing on. I'm really, really excited to kind of see what Link Jarrett does because every single time he makes me run through a wall.
Yeah, I mean, we love Link. I think he's a terrific coach. I think he's done big things there to get this team back to Omaha this year. He's going to have to make some more wins. There are going to have to be some more games. And he's going to take on North Carolina, who ended up losing 1-6 against Tennessee in that night game. Really, Tennessee got out to a little bit of a lead. They hit the ball around the ballpark, but it really never felt like it was out of reach for North Carolina. They just couldn't get the offense going. The only run was the solo home run there from Vance Honeycutt. Micah, speak a little bit about that Vance Honeycutt home run. It was great, but it really just didn't keep momentum building. You kind of need doubles and triples kind of in this ballpark to get momentum rolling.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing, and I'll shout out our guy Harrison, who interviewed Drew Beam after the game. He asked him about that pitch, and he was just like, I threw a cutter that didn't cut, and, Vance Honeycutt's going to drive one of those out. So, Drew Beam, I just got to tip my hat to him because, we've seen some really rough outings from him. He obviously didn't pitch very well in Supers against Evansville, and I kind of liked the pitching matchup for UNC going into that with Shea Sprague going against, Drew Beam. And Drew Beam won the outing, and he was phenomenal for Tennessee. Those bats are just so good. They can put together quality at bats when they needed to. I mean, UNC gets Beam out of the game, but then fails to do anything more with that bullpen. And that's a credit to Tennessee and just how good they are. I mean, I'm going to be the first one to admit I kind of was doubting them a little bit. And, I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong.
They're number 1 in the country.
Yeah, well, you know, I was cheering for Wake Forest last year, #1 team in the country, and we saw that panned out. So, it was a very impressive performance, obviously, from Tennessee. But again, I think the most impressive thing from that game was just Drew Beam's ability to come in, and he just attacked that UNC lineup and really made them work. I mean, UNC had seen a lot of success with just kind of piecing together good at bats, both in supers and in regional play, and Drew Beam just kind of shut that down.
Yeah, and UNC was a team that was pretty hot and winning some really tight baseball games coming into this. And I know that we had some high hopes for this team. They're still in front of them. This is not over. They still get Florida State today, which we're going to go watch here in a little bit. Jake, UNC loses this one, but it felt like the Tennessee story and that #1 seed story maybe is building something special.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just a pleasure to watch Tennessee take the baseball field every single time. They have a little bit of everything. They have speed guys, they have gritty guys that will literally and figuratively run through a wall to win games. As Hunter Ainsley did that, had probably the catch of the year here. It really kind of felt like complacency from UNC, at least kind of early on. It felt like they were kind of feeling out Tennessee, where Tennessee was just throwing blow after blow after blow, hoping to land one. Kavere Steers is obviously the one that landed it with that big 3-run home run there. It really kind of lifted them. Like you said, Tennessee really kind of needed to figure out that first game. That second game, they knew that they were going to get Beam. Beam was going to go out and absolutely shove and set up that bullpen. And then Nate Snead down the line really kind of slamming the door. That was kind of my favorite part of it, is just see some of these bullpen guys who sit around, don't know when they're going to pitch. Nate Snead goes in, slams the door, and moves Tennessee into 2-0. But again, like Micah said, we were here last year with Wake Forest, where they were sitting at 2-0 as the #1 seed, one game away from making it back. So again, still work to do, still a little bit of meat on that bone for Tennessee.
Absolutely. And again, we're down here live at Omaha Baseball Village. We're here inside the Baseballism room here. Come on down. Come see all this cool stuff here. They got tons of stuff. They got the Golden Spikes Award over there between those two gentlemen. They got tons of new Golden Spikes Award winning stuff, USA baseball hats. They got tons of team stuff down here, tons of Omaha stuff. Come down and see it at every purchase. Get yourself a Golden Spikes Award baseball pack of cards. All right, boys, we're going to talk about another elimination game, Florida, NC State. Florida hangs on to win that one. A tough loss and a tough way to lose for NC State, but a really good NC State team we didn't want to see go home this early. Really big win, though, for Coach Sullivan there, O'Sullivan at Florida. Mike, speak a little bit about that one. I know that was a close to home one there.
Yeah, I think what's frustrating, Mark, for me is I saw Florida 3 times in the regular season, and they were run ruled all 3 times I saw them. And then I've seen them in the postseason twice. I watched them eliminate Clemson in the Clemson Supers, and then obviously just watched them eliminate NC State. So, Florida, stop eliminating my ACC teams, please. I'm asking nicely. But no, honestly, I mean, obviously, I think it's just a pleasure to watch Jack Caglione play baseball. You see him struggle in that first inning. He gets out of it, limits it to only 1 run. And then what does he do? He hits a 3-run bomb to give himself some run support. Obviously, he did not reappear in that game, but from on the mound standpoint, obviously. But it was just a credit to Florida. I mean, they took advantage. Again, NC State left 9 on base. It's kind of the story for the ACC teams in the postseason this year. When Georgia Tech got eliminated against Georgia, they left, I think, 14 or 15 on base. So it's kind of been a story, unfortunately, for ACC teams in the postseason, especially against SEC teams. But, I mean, this Florida team, I don't think anybody doubts how good they are. I mean, you can do the debate, most deserving, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, they've proven they deserve to be here. And I'm really intrigued to see that game with Kentucky tonight, because obviously that was a really great series in the regular season. So, it'll be interesting to see how that trend continues. We've seen the revenge spots here in the postseason when they get a chance with a team they've lost the regular season series to.
Yeah, in Florida, again, the 3-run home run from Jack Caggs, 4 runs there, and then Logan Whitaker, though, there's not enough you can say about how good this kid pitched yesterday. It was unbelievable. He went out there 7 innings after that, just gave up the 1 solo shot there to Shelnut. But really a really good thing to keep them in the ballgame and give NC State a chance. Again, 20 runners left on base here at the Omaha. It's going to be tough to win some baseball games there, and the ACC seems to have been doing that more than other teams. And it's really been tough here while you're here in this ballpark. Jake, the Jack Caggs home run, it really felt like that was the turning point, and we know that was because of the runs there. But Shelnut, big solo home run there also.
Yeah, I mean, on the Cags home run, I got to catch up with Luke Heyman after it, and he was like, yeah, the ball really wasn't flying in BP, so we knew he had to take an adjustment. But he's like, but Cags is Cags, and he can just cut right through that wind. And we saw that as he's had numerous hits, peak at over 150 miles an hour. It really is kind of just awesome to watch him see. But I think Luke Neely is kind of the one that I'm going to really watch here. He threw, again, 70 more pitches. I know he got that extra day off in between, but now he's not doing that going forward. They're really gonna need him to speed him up. This is gonna be the one where it feels like Florida kind of needs to just get one last punch in Kentucky before they go and face A&M. I don't know how much we'll see Neely, but there's going to be a lot of guys that need to step in that Florida bullpen, like McNeely behind him, as we saw in the Super Regionals. He was kind of able to bring it up because I'm not sure how many pitches he has left. It almost feels like he shouldn't even be throwing warm-up pitches in between innings because that takes a pitch off down the stretch. But, he's got a rubber arm. He reminds me of one of Monty's favorite players who unfortunately had to go back to work down at Duke, Charlie Beelenson, who just kind of dances around, always wanting to be in every single game. And it's just insane how somebody like that can just go out and throw pitches like that, 70, 70, 70, 70. And Florida's going to need it again if they want to move on.
Yeah, and O'Sullivan spoke about that in the press conference, right? He said, hey, we're going to need somebody new to step up. I need 3 outs. I need 6 outs. I need somebody else from this bullpen to step up. And we know Cags only threw the 1 inning there, and something was off. And they said not injury. Something was off. He just wasn't right. The mechanics weren't right. Velo was 6 miles an hour down. Something was just going off there. So I don't know if we see him throw again in this postseason. If not, it's been a pleasure to see him as a two-way player. Last two-way player to hit a home run since Tim Hudson in 1997. Incredible performance there, though, with the 3-run home run. Let's talk about today's game. UNC Florida State, they're next. We get that one this morning, I guess afternoon-ish, Micah.
Well, Mark, we forgot one more game.
You're forgetting an important game, Mark. A&M and Kentucky.
Yeah, A&M sitting at 2-0.
I mean, hey, I'm down to forget about SEC games, Mark. If that's what you want to do, we can do it.
Jake, you know what? You're just so into this one. Let's talk about it. There was 6 2/3 of no-hit ball from Prager last night. He was terrific.
Yeah, I do want to apologize to those that follow me on Twitter for my game updates, as they really kind of did get slow there when Prager was going through the no-hitter. I was just kind of like, Prager had I tried to do everything I could to avoid talking about the no-hitter. But again, it was a tremendous game again from Ryan Prager, and it's one that the Aggies really needed. When he pitched in the Super Regionals, he threw, I think, 1 2/3 innings, really kind of set their bullpen back. And the way that they kind of threw Ashton back and Cortez in the last game, they didn't really have that luxury. They needed somebody like him to step up and go through. And then Josh Stewart down at the back end of the bullpen, really kind of slamming the door. He's kind of been a little bit of the odd man out because A&M stayed on the right side in a lot of these regionals. So somebody like Stewie really hasn't had a chance to pitch. Just the character of him. He goes out and pitches the game of his life, the biggest stage, slamming the door to get them into 2-0 for the first time in school history. And what does he do? He goes down to the bullpen and picks up trash that the other guys left down there before coming out. And I got to talk with him on there for a little bit before he cut the bus. But that just speaks to the character of this team, that, he knew there were no TV cameras out there that were going to film him looking for his moment. He was just going out there because that's what he does. And again, Texas A&M sitting at 2-0. Hayden shot. He had a kind of a forgettable regional. He's shaking it off, and he's the hottest hitter on this A&M team. I think I read he's 11 for 16 with 6 RBIs and 2 walks and 2 home runs. He had the big hit. Caden Kent is still just kind of punching above his weight class, stepping up for the injured Braden Montgomery. We should mention, too, that the Jace Lavalette hamstring, he was removed. We're going to probably get more information about that. Luckily, A&M gets a little bit of time off. They're not kind of running back in. But I have the utmost confidence in people like Jack Bell and Gavin Grahovic. Both of them have taken consistent outfield reps throughout the season. And Jack Bell really is kind of one of the biggest recruits A&M has. I know he kind of had that yips ball where he threw it into left field, but hopefully he's kind of flushed it and gotten it all out of his system.
Yeah, I feel like this A&M team is ready to play, and they showed up and they played last night. No hitting Kentucky for 6 2/3. I know we were silent up there, Micah. We were all just watching history being made. Really good performance from Prager. Do you have to add anything there from that Kentucky team? I mean, we know we had the solo home run from Nicholson that didn't feel like they were ever going to get back in that ball game, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, that's been my favorite thing, right? I'm an ACC guy. I've spent all my time focused on the ACC, and part of my job is to make fun of it just meaning more on the SEC. But it's been really fun to see these programs like A&M, Kentucky. They really are just such. I mean, again, I had to hang out with Jake a little bit pregame around that A&M dugout. Just the vibe that team brings, the camaraderie, the family atmosphere that Schloss and that program has. Just, I mean, right now, right? Just if chalk continues, we got A&M and Tennessee. As an ACC guy, I wasn't planning to stay for an all SEC final. I would stay for that final. We're just setting up for a really, really good finish here in Omaha. So it was. Again, it frustrates me that the ACC's got to play catch up, but it's been a lot of fun to watch that A&M program. And again, Kentucky, I mean, they battled. I mean, they got A&M's best, and there were chances there late where I was kind of to think that Kentucky might, scratch and claw back into this one. So it was it never felt like it was fully out of control or out of reach until really it was. The game was over.
Yeah, and this Cats team has come back all year. They've been battling. They've done those little things. It felt like the little things just weren't going their way last night, and they just couldn't really get those things going for them. Tough loss. They're now in the losers bracket here. They're going to play Florida tonight. But let's talk about that first game. UNC taking on Florida State. This is a big one here. Cannot wait for this matchup here in this ballpark. It's a little stormy here today, folks. I know you've probably heard a little bit of the wind. We're going to get some rain here later tonight. Hopefully it stays off till tonight, but it says 8 p.m. So this 1 p.m. game is going to be really important. It's going to be a great one there between UNC and Florida State. Walk us through a little bit what you think is going to happen here today, Micah.
So, I think the first thing, right, is a question on pitching. Florida State has had, some lack of depth. Obviously, Cam Leiter has not been able to come back after his injury midseason. Florida State hasn't announced a starter that I've seen as of yet. I know there wasn't any as of last night. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Andrew Armstrong or John Amorum. But, for Florida State, it's going to be interesting to see what they kind of do piecing together their bullpen. Brennan Oxford was huge again in that Virginia game, being able to kind of just utilize only 2 against the Hoos. But, UNC's obviously got Aiden Hoggett going on the mound, who did not pitch well in regional play. He did not get a chance to pitch in supers. So it's going to be interesting to see what Florida State brings to the table there, and UNC on the pitching side. It looked like, Mark, the wind was blowing out to left when we rolled up here earlier this morning. So if that trend continues, we might see some home runs tonight. Obviously we've seen a couple, but we might see a 5, 6, 7 home runs combined between the two teams with what's kind of throwing on top of, again, both these teams' lineups are very deep from top to bottom. That's kind of a credit to what Florida State and UNC brings to the table. I would argue Florida State's got a little bit of a deeper lineup right now, especially the way things have kind of been trending with that team. So, and James Tibbs III really hasn't been all that, the ACC Player of the Year. So, if he can kind of figure it, well, in postseason,
yeah.
I'm not saying all year, but come on. Jake.
This is just the most This is the first negative thing I think I've ever heard Micah say.
He's been yeah, you're right. But he's been struggling, this postseason. So, if he can kind of find it today, like he found it against UConn in that game too. If he can kind of find it here, that's just going to make this Florida State team even more dangerous. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get from the two.
Absolutely, and the wind is blowing it. It's not just a breeze today. This is a full blown wind.
This is that Midwest wind.
It keeps going out to left, center, which has been different. It's been coming in all week long so far. Almost every game's been coming in a little bit. So if it's blowing out to left center, boy, watch out. Jake, I know we're excited for this one. Going to go out there and just take it in this one. I'm going to go walk through the crowd a little bit. I love this crowd out there. The Florida State crowd's been showing up. UNC crowd's been showing up. They've had tons of celebrities. This is a marquee matchup of ACC baseball.
I'm really excited to see it just because personally I know that the loser of this game, I get to go get some of their merch on sale, and these are the 2 teams that I was looking forward to the most. But, it's going to be the superstars. We can talk about Casey Cook, Parks Harbor, and Vince Honeycutt, Cam Smith, Tibbs. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it's somebody that we don't expect that's going to be the one that kind of breaks out here. One of those guys near the bottom of the lineup because, again, this one feels like we're destined for a shootout. Both teams are kind of on their way out of pitching. The depth's going to be kind of tested. They're going to bring guys back on short rest that they really haven't been accustomed to. I think we're going to see kind of a 10-8, really windy game, last at bat kind of thing. But, again, these are 2 ACC teams that really don't like each other. For the last 15 or so years since I've been following college baseball, they always seem to be kind of near the top of the ACC. Despite not playing in the regular season, there's no love lost between these 2 teams, and we get to watch college baseball at the pinnacle.
As much college baseball as I've watched in my lifetime, these 2 teams love to battle each other, and I'm so glad it's happening here in Omaha. These are 2 blue bloods. Neither one of them have ever won a title here. Cannot wait to see this game tonight. Again, it's going to be terrific. Micah, I'm going to put you on the spot because now we're going to pick these games. Who you got in this morning game with the 1 o'clock game?
I'm rolling with UNC. A part of that might be selfish. I said it on our show, Mark, and this is not to take a shot at Florida State. The pitching depth is a question. As an ACC guy, I want the team I think has the best chance to potentially find a way to win too against Tennessee. I think North Carolina is just a little bit deeper on that rotation. Plus, the clutch factor of Vance Honeycutt and that team, just what they did through regionals and super regionals, kind of makes me think that they have a chance here. Plus, again, we don't even know who Florida State's pitching, and we are what, 4
Well,
hours from
their
first
Twitter
pitch.
was hacked, so we don't know.
Yeah, but I mean they've been quiet about it for a while now, so it's going to be. I mean, for me, I lean North Carolina, especially if it is blowing out to left. I mean, North Carolina's got pop too. I think at the end of the day, I lean the Tar Heels.
Jake, who are you going with and why?
I'm going to go with Florida State here. I know that we haven't announced a starter, but I think that that's going to kind of play into their hand as UNC isn't able to kind of scout who they want. I wouldn't rule out Jamie Arnold for an inning. I know that that's kind of crazy to think about that he just threw a few times, but it really wouldn't surprise me if they kind of see him in a spot start because, like you said, that bullpen is really worried. But I like a lot of the guys that they have near the bottom of the lineup, so really kind of excited to see. I think we see another Alex Lodi signature class game. He's going to play great defense up the middle. I'm going to go with he adds a double and Florida State wins.
I guess it's on me to break this tie. Man, you know what? I've been on UNC all year. I'm gonna stick with UNC. I feel like this lineup here, especially if the ball is moving out to left and left center, I feel like that leans towards what UNC is doing. I feel like UNC's got a little bit deeper in the bullpen depth right now, so I'm gonna go with UNC. I think Florida State's a great team, but I'm going to lean towards UNC tonight. I think that they pull this one out and get to that regional final game there.
And then Monty, who is working in his office, just said that he's going to go Florida State. So we're back into an even tie again.
So you got to put it back in a tie for me, Jake, after I just broke it. Thanks. That's very Jake McKeever of you to throw on me.
Honestly, I feel honored that me and Monty are on the same side because he's just the guru of ACC baseball.
You two have been bickering like a married couple this week, so it's nice to see you on the same page for something. We're going to move on to the final ones here. There, Florida and Kentucky. I know this is a tough one here. This is a great game here. I really don't know if Kentucky's going to have the firepower to match this Florida lineup, but Florida's lineup also hasn't shown up huge yet here in Omaha. Jake, I'm going to let you speak first on this one because I know that you've seen these teams a lot. What are you thinking here in this Florida-Kentucky matchup?
I mean, every part of you wants to say that you're going to pick Florida. I mean, the amount of guys that they have versus Kentucky's, you feel really good about Florida. But, I mean, Kentucky's kind of been doubted all season. I think that this is going to kind of play into their strengths again. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Florida, bunting the ball, getting a little bit of hit and runs. I know that was not something that they were really kind of able to do against Texas A&M as Jackson Appel when he threw that strike. I wouldn't say it scared him out of it, but it's a lot harder to bunt when you're down 5 runs and go through hit and runs like that. So I'm going to go with Kentucky here. I think that this might be the end of the road here for Florida, as I don't know what their pitching is going to look like after this game. So just from a competitive standpoint, I really want Kentucky to kind of come through.
Yeah, it's a great matchup here. Micah, speak a little bit about what you know on this one here. I know you saw Florida play live. I don't know if you caught Kentucky live at all this year, but I know you saw Florida live. The lineup versus the small ball Kentucky, that's kind of what it comes down to in this big old ballpark. If that wind's blown out, though, it does play a little bit different.
Yeah, so before I talk about that, I just shout out to Monty who's watching. He sent me the confirmation that Florida State has just now announced a starter. It is Andrew Armstrong, as I kind of thought it might be. So that does give us a little bit more clarity on what to expect. He was kind of the midweek guy. I don't know how long he can go, but I mean he's got good stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what that means.
Does that change your pick at all?
No, it does not change my pick at all. That's what I predicted was going to happen. I still think Carolina's going to win, but. You talk about this Florida-Kentucky game. It's interesting, Mark, because the trend here in Omaha for the most part has been if you lost the regular season series, you then win in Omaha against that team. So obviously Kentucky took the series against Florida. So logic would say Florida. I watched Florida last week. I had the luxury of kind of chilling between the Florida dugout and the Florida bullpen during that Clemson game too, where that game just never wanted to end. And it felt like the Gators just were throwing everything they had because they knew they didn't have much left in the tank and didn't want to go do a game 3 with that Clemson program. Kentucky makes you earn 27 outs. That's why I think Kentucky's going to win this game. They're going to make Florida's pitching staff work every single at bat, win every single out. And it's not again, Florida's also a little bit banged up, right? I just don't know if they have enough. Will Neely be able to throw? I mean, I watched Neely throw 1,000 pitches against Clemson last week in the Super, so maybe he's got another 1,000 here in Omaha.
He's going to throw 70,
but yeah,
regardless.
But
seems
I mean, at some point, like you could even saw it, right? I mean, he when he got late into that Clemson game, Ken Canarella hit that 3-run bomb to tie it. He's prone to a mistake or two when you get that high up in the pitch counts. He's again such a great arm, but you can only throw so many pitches when you're not used to that type of stage. So I lean Kentucky here because it's just a credit, like what Jake said, right? They're just so disciplined. They make you earn the punts. They're going to get on base, and when they do, And last night was probably the most un-Kentucky performance we've seen from a failure to bring those guys in when they got on base. I think they're going to be able to do that here today. And again, if the wind is blowing out, Kentucky had the ability to show a little pop against NC State. I think they could probably do it again if the wind especially is playing in their favor.
Jake, who do you got in this one? I know Micah just explained his. Who you got?
I said Kentucky, but this will give me a chance to kind of the Monty confirmation. He's going Kentucky, so you have a chance to either move Florida on to the next round or save Kentucky here.
I'm going the Gators today. I do believe that they just have something going, right? They have something moving on. I feel like this team really wants to keep competing. After being in the presser with them yesterday, I feel like Jack Kaggs wants to keep playing. He wants another chance to pitch, and I think that he feels bad about his last outing there, and he really wants another chance to pitch, which means they got to keep winning baseball games. So I'm taking Florida tonight. I think that that's going to be awesome. We're going to hope the weather stays off. Stay off, weather, just for a little bit longer for us, please. Stay off just a little bit.
Make the SEC teams wait a little longer.
Yeah. They had the rain delay already. The SEC teams are the ones that are loose.
Jake, what's been your favorite food so far in Omaha?
The Three Little Pigs from Rocco's Pizza. We got it during that rain delay. I don't know. The sweet honey barbecue sauce was just tremendous, off the charts. But I think from an aesthetic purpose, Mark, I have to go with your pretzel that you had.
Rocco's is a mainstay. We all know about it. We all go in there. We all stop in there. We all go get it. Micah, tell me a little bit about your favorite food so far in Omaha. Doesn't have to be this trip. I know you've been here before. Tell me about what your favorite food has been in Omaha.
Well, obviously the best thing is the cinnamon roll and chili. I mean, come on, Mark. No, I think for me, I'm going to be basic, but I love a good runza. I think it's actually pretty good. It's a Nebraska staple. It's nice to be able to grab that on the way to the ballpark, on the way back from the ballpark. So I'm gonna lean a runza. Just keep it simple here.
I had something called a home run pretzel at the ballpark. It was as big as a medium pizza. It had a regular pretzel. It had the salt on it, and then it had 3 kinds of cheese. It had chicken. It had pulled pork. It had seasoned ground beef. It was delightful in the stadium there. So much good ballpark food around here, guys. Last question before we take off. Which 2-0 team do you feel most comfortable with, Jake? I'm going to start with you.
It's got to be Tennessee. The way that they set up this bullpen thing, they're going to get Xander Seacrest going, who has just been nails down the stretch in the postseason. They're going to get a UNC or Florida State team that's out of pitching, that's had to battle through it. It does feel like Tennessee is going to be the 1 seed that makes it into the tournament, into the championship game. I'm going to go Xander Seacrest masterclass in Tennessee going 3-0 in the championship.
Micah, who's the 2-0 team you feel most comfortable in right now?
I'm going to say Texas A&M just because Jake didn't have the courage to say it because he doesn't want to jinx his favorite team. But I think at the end of the day, I feel confident that both these teams are going to advance. It just doesn't feel like whoever's going to come out of this morning or this early game today / the later game today is going to have enough to beat someone like Tennessee or Texas A&M twice. So just to make it a little bit more fair, we'll say A&M just because I also too, and this might be the ACC homer in me. I did think the bottom bracket was a little bit easier to come out with again because if Florida comes out of this game, if they take care of business against Kentucky, what do they have left to get through to do 2 more games against Texas A&M? Where North Carolina does, they haven't really used a lot of their arms for a team that's sitting in this 1-1 game. So for that reason alone, I'm just going to lean Carolina. I'm going to lean A&M because just their side of the bracket. But I think both teams should feel pretty good about it because,
you also can't pick against your ACC guys.
That's also true too. Just means less. So,
listen, I'm going Tennessee. I think that preseason, I said whoever the number 1 seed is, I think the curse gets broken this year. So I have to stick with what my guns are, and that's Tennessee advancing into the finals there. Again, great week here in Omaha. We've been having so much fun, getting to do so much stuff. Thanks to all the NCAA staff letting us all over the ballpark. We've been able to go into all the press conferences. We've been able to have field access. Hopefully you guys are following us on College Baseball Central, ACC, FQA, ACC. Jake McKeever here. We were here at Baseballism. We want to thank these guys for having us in the booth here. Golden Spikes Award presented by Chinook Seedery. And Mike is already rocking the Baseballism hat there. I had a Baseballism shirt on yesterday. Listen, these guys are great. Come down and see them in the Omaha Baseball Village. Come down, find out all the gear. They got team-specific gear. They got Team USA gear. They got Golden Spike stuff. Again, if you come down and buy stuff, you're going to get a baseball pack of cards there for those kids also. So come down, visit these guys, take a picture in front of the award. For Mark Garland, Micah, and Jake, thanks so much for joining us here. We'll see you guys later.